freedom has roared in the theaters.
Right, even knocking the fedora right off of Indiana Jones's July 4th box office rankings and taking the #1 spot that day.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom.
Felt good.
You have been at this for 12 years. Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
Joining us right now is the guy who the movie is based upon, Underground Railroad founder, Tim Ballard, who helped save kids from traffickers all around the world. Tim, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
How cool is that? Your movie beat Indiana Jones.
Yeah, we're blessed, we're shocked. You know, I grew up on Indiana Jones. How could more people want to watch a movie about us than him? But we're grateful because it's a real problem. People are waking up, and we think this could be a major solution in the fight against child trafficking.
Yeah, you know, Tim, it's a true story about you. You work for Homeland Security, and then you were arresting these pedophiles, and you realize, hey, there are victims out there, and I want to save these kids. And the true story is your wife said, you know, quit your job, and you go save this family. Brother and sister are kidnapped. They think they're going to be models, and a beautiful lady says to the dad, just leave them here in this room. I'll take care of them. Come back and pick them up later this afternoon. I'm going to teach them how to be models and give them a modeling career and make a lot of money for your family. He comes back and the lights are off, the kids are gone. And so you make it your life mission to save the little boy, and you promise the little boy, I'm going to save your sister. Did you tell us the story of this? How, because I understand it was a Fox movie, and then when Disney bought Fox Century 20, the 20th Century, then this was tabled. And so how did it get to the Angel? How did the Angel Network get involved?
Well, yeah, Fox, you said, produced it. Disney bought it, and Disney was very clear that they weren't going to do anything with it. The irony there is pretty almost poetic now. The producers wrestled it away, and it went through several hands. And I actually was I was invited to the set of The Chosen, and I happened to be there, and I ran into the Angel Studios executives just sitting there in the fake Jerusalem set. So it's kind of cool. And I told them that this film is about to lose the people who had it, the rights were going to expire. They jumped in and grabbed it, and I mean, they made a deal in 5 days.
That's great.
With the producers, Eduardo, and then 90 days later, here we are. It happened really fast. Angel Studios are very creative. They know how to do this.
What did Jim Caviezel do to the part and playing you?
Well, when they asked me back in, I believe, 2018, who I would like to play me, right out of the gate, I said Jim Caviezel.
Awesome.
And they didn't like that because there's a cool scene at the end of the movie where they transition into actual footage from the operation that's depicted in the film. And they said, you look nothing like Jim. We want someone that looks a little bit like you. And I told them I don't trust Hollywood very much. I told them I think I'm in business largely because of Hollywood and the sex content they constantly create, which leads to the demand. And I said, Jim Caviezel loves Jesus. That's important to me because I love Jesus. And I think that, you know, that's the connection point where I feel comfortable. And they went with it, and I think they made the right decision. Anyone who sees the film, I think, would agree.
Yeah, indeed. But there's been some criticism in the mainstream media where they suggest there's some sort of a connection to your movie and QAnon. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I can't explain it, and neither can they. Every show I've seen, they just like to throw the word out, QAnon. They make zero connection to the actual story. It's very difficult to make that connection when it's actually based on a true story. Every kid is real in the story. Every bad guy is real. You know, they play with some timing and things like that to fit it all in. But where's the QAnon doctrine being spewed in the film and the script? I have no idea, because this is actually what it looks like, because this is what happened. I was there, and several others were there to confirm. So this is just some other agenda. Why would you want to lie to push an agenda whose goal is to have children be in captivity? It's kind of sick.
Tim, I think for our viewers that have faith in their life. I think they know that God is just blessing you because you're telling a story, and Disney doesn't want it told. And people don't want Jim Caviezel. He's had a hard time getting booked for movies because he played Jesus in Passion of the Christ, and he's expressed his love for Jesus. So I'm so glad you're telling the story. It's awesome how God has made this all just happen and come to be. And I think you spent like $15 million, and you've made 3 times that now, which is awesome. My family's seen the movie. I saw the movie. It's hard to watch because as a mother, you think, if someone did this to my child, my goodness. So tell us about the problem and what as a country we can do to help this.
Well, this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, and too often Americans sit back and say, this is something far, far away from us, and it's not. We are generally speaking, we are the demand for consuming child exploitation material. Often we're the #1 producers. We're in the top 3 countries for destination countries. We are the ones pushing these movements about sexualizing kids, calling it sex education. We're the ones who are allowing or wanting children as young as 13 years old to be able to consent to anything, including body mutilation, which will only lead to consent laws around children being able to consent to have sex with adults. We are the country that allows, in the last 2 years, 85,000 unaccompanied minors to come to our border and then be let in without any vetting, no background check. And what do you think's happening in the economy of pedophilia? We are the problem. We are the demand. We are creating this.
I want you to hear what CNN said about you. Listen to this and have you respond.
Films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites, and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down.
Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, as that guy's talking, and he's nobody's hero, by the way. I can't imagine any kid looking at him thinking he's going to help them out. But I think of the children that are really depicted in that film. I know what happened to them. Those children were the subjects of child rape videos. Those children were being sold for sex. In total, you see over 120 kids actually are rescued in the story that's being depicted, even if the movie doesn't get into all of them. These are real kids. I see them. I'm still friends with them. So it's embarrassing and frankly grotesque for this guy who knows nothing to start throwing out terms like QAnon and connecting it to a real story. I mean, they're not even thinking about it. So what are they thinking about?
Are they pro-sex trafficking?
Children?
It's so bizarre. It's like they're pro-sex trafficking. Like, leave the industry alone.
That's how it feels to me. It feels like there's some other agenda, because why do this?
There's that one scene in the movie where it's an older man and he's picking out what little boy or what little girl he wants to take into, I just can't even talk about it, but to take away. And we know what's going to happen to that child. Does that really happen, and how often does it happen?
Well, this is happening all the time. There are 6 million children, believe it or not, according to the Department of Labor, Department of State, who are stuck in slavery of one kind or another. Either it's sex, labor, or organ harvesting. I mean, organ harvesting, we've been taking down several organ harvesting rings where they take little babies and use them that way. And so we see everything, and the film depicts every kind, whether it's the lure, like you mentioned, that's a real person, that beauty queen who was recruiting kids as young as 9 years old and then grooming them to be sex slaves. We see everything. It's all in existence, and there's millions of kids.
Well, everybody is talking about your movie. Congratulations.
Support this movie, support the cause, because people like Tim are going out and saving these children. And you're right, God's children are not for sale. Tim, thank you so much.
And the difference between Schindler's List and this film, Schindler's List was done 50 years.
Too late.
Too late. We're doing this right now, during the time. And this is a huge weapon to evil, and they don't like it.
He makes me look way more badass than I am. I'm going to be honest. Okay, they play with times. There's certain things we have to take. Certain things.
Well, and there's some actual footage from an operation
at
the end, right?
Yes.
So you do see you actually in the element.
Absolutely, we filmed that operation.
Yeah.
Also, there's going to be a documentary called Triple Take coming out in the wake of Sound of Freedom that tells the story. So it's all real. Now, yes, liberties are taken. There's certain action scenes that are like, yeah, that one above what's real. I don't want to spoiler alert, but I just want to say that. But I also want to say that the majority of it is absolutely true. It's a true story. I mean, this happened, and it's important to know that, because I'm tired of people saying that human trafficking must be false. It can't be real, you know. And it's a leftist movement that's actually doing this. They want to discredit human trafficking and pedophilia because they have an agenda to normalize pedophilia. I mean, the UN just reported that it's time to start decriminalizing sex with children. The same groups that are just trying to discredit me and just trying to destroy my reputation, the fake news media outlets, are also peddling this agenda that don't call them pedophiles. Pedophile is a derogatory term. Hell, right? Yeah, it is a derogatory. It's supposed to be. It's a red flag statement. No, they want to call it minor attracted persons. You've heard this MAP. And it's insane what's happening, the sexualization of our kids, what's happening at the border, facilitating human child trafficking. So there's a spiritual warfare going on right now. And children are in the crosshairs. This has never happened before. Children have never been the target so clearly, so blatantly. And half the country is like, yay, rah, rah, we're going to liberate kids. No, you're going to enslave them in the name of liberating them. So this film is going to be the tool, I hope, that opens people's minds to the reality of the danger all of our children are in.
You said half the country. I don't think it's half the country.
You're right.
You know,
You're right.
I think
It seems like it is.
I think it's like a small group of very loud, very
You're right.
energetic people.
You're right.
And then there are a bunch of people that just don't say anything.
The silent majority needs to rise up. I hope this film activates them. It's born here in this country. They want to get rid of pedophile and call it minor attracted persons. They want to give children pornography at 3rd grade, calling it sex education. They want to let 13, 14-year-old girls consent to cutting off their genitalia and injecting and having themselves injected with hormone blockers that can destroy their reproductive systems, right? Why is that relevant? Because it's just one more step to, I also want consent. If you give me that much consent at 13, you've already sexualized me because I've had your sex education. Do you know what happens, what porn does to an adult brain? Times 10 to a kid's brain. So now they're 13 years old and they're gonna say, well, thanks for letting me change my body. I also want to tell you that I identify as a 30-year-old. And so I want to have sex with the 40-year-old pedophile, and you can't stop me anymore because you have eliminated all godly, scientific, moral virtues. The pedophile agenda has been pushed for decades. And I'm not conspiracy theorists. I'm not saying they're talking to this left woke godlessness that's happening over here. They're not talking necessarily, but their agenda is identical. All the things that pedophiles have wanted, sexualizing kids, giving kids the right to consent, pushing God out of education, these are all the platforms that the organized pedophile groups have been peddling. The woke left is now implementing them.
The lights didn't turn off for the first 10 minutes, and also there was like a voiceover, like a narrator.
In a bathroom, Tim regards himself in a mirror. He splashes water on his face. In daylight, Tim enters the sunny foyer.
People come out and complain, it's not our fault. We have to get this situated so that everybody can feel accommodated, and then we'll restart the movie, okay?
Restart the movie? Hold on.
Standing in line with all these other people in the movie theater. We're getting refunds for the Sound of Freedom because apparently the water pressure in the bathrooms aren't working here, so no one can watch.
There were other people in here, and now they're all gone. And the radio's playing over the movie. Lights are still on.
Starts going on. The film was glitching, then shut down. Been going to the theater all year, and this has never happened. It finally was played. There's something definitely going on.
Are you having issues in other theaters, or is it just the Sound of Freedom?
I'm pretty sure it's 12 that it was overheating in that room.
So it's just this theater you're having an issue playing movies in right now?
Yes, it's this auditorium.
Okay, no surprise there. Thank you.
Proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building. Do not re-enter the building until directed to by the proper authorities.